It's Throwback weekend, or at least it's supposed to be that way. To be honest, I didn't feel like there were a lot of throwbacks throughout the weekend. I just feel like Throwback weekend has lost its luster over the years. NASCAR needs to do something. I don't know what, but they need to do something, because I feel like, especially this year, I feel like not many teams cared about Throwback weekend. There were also a few paint schemes that were very that were like recycles of past Throwback schemes. A few like overused paint schemes, I gotta say. But anyways, let's get right into it. So for the Truck Series race, rain was an issue on Friday, but at least for the trucks, they managed to practice and qualify before rain drenched the track. However, the race started a bit later because, the NASCAR officials, they wanted to make sure that the track conditions were optimal for the race. That being said, there weren't any rain concerns during the night, so that's a plus. I can't say the same thing for the Xfinity race though, since the rain actually affected their action more than it did for the Truck Series. So for the first 10 laps, the race started pretty good. We saw a few battling for the lead. Riom Brothers Racing's day, it went south immediately with Josh Riom and Akinori Ogata just getting into it. And that was really a shame because both of those guys, Josh Riom in the 33 Intimidator Throwback, and Akinori Ogata running the Mike Skinner Bill Davis Racing Throwback, those two were two of my favorite, not only of the Truck Series throwbacks, but also of Throwback weekend overall. Two of my favorite throwback paint schemes overall of this year. So it was really sad for me it was really a shame to see them go south in the first 10 laps. Riom Brothers Racing just didn't have a good day today. Anyways, Stage 1 had an awesome racing for the lead. Up to 5 trucks were battling for the lead at once. Eventually, it ended with after another caution. There were 20 laps left in Stage 1. Some drivers took tires. Some drivers stayed out. Of the drivers who took tires, Parker Kligerman, he restarted 14th, and he made an amazing charge, and he got past all 3 Kyle Busch Motorsports cars. The KBN guys were running 1, 2, 3. All 3 of them stayed out, by the way. But Parker Kligerman, he passed all 3 of them, and he won Stage 1 on fresh tires. Once again, reason number 420. Nice. Reason number 420 of why Parker Kligerman deserves a full-time ride. Yeah, you just saw it right there. He won Stage 1 on a part-time ride, basically. So, the tone was set, pretty much from the start. Darlington was going to be all about tires. The first stage featured guys pitting midway through the stage, trying to get stage points. Between those guys, Carson Hocevar and Grant Enfinger, two guys that were hovering in the playoff cut line. They were 2 of those guys. These 2 drivers, they decided to pit for fresh tires and make a late charge in the end of the stage to get all those valuable stage points. It ended up working for them. Enfinger and Hocevar finished Stage 1 in the top 10, which means that they got stage points. And in Stage 2, the action didn't slow down. If anything, it intensified. Tanner Gray got dumped twice. He almost got put in the wall. Todd Bodine got spun. Ty Majeski got a flat tire. And Lawless Allen, he also got a flat tire after getting put in the wall, after getting squeezed into the wall by, ironically enough, his best friend Hailie Deegan. So stage 2 ended with Carson Hocevar and Ross Chastain for the stage, and Carson Hocevar ended up winning. However, he wouldn't hold on to the lead for long because a very slow pit stop dropped him all the way back to 8th. Then in stage 3 there was a big accident. Tanner Gray got loose. He got bombed by Austin Wayne Self. Then in the backstretch, and then while he was trying to straighten the car, he collected the Chase Purdy was collected. Hailie Deegan was also there. Hailie Deegan just cannot catch a break, man. And I've seen a lot of people say that she is maybe the unluckiest driver in the Truck Series. Now, I don't believe that. Well, I do agree that she hasn't had the best of luck. At the same time, it's not like she was doing anything special when she was running when she wasn't getting involved into accidents. She was just barely running mid-pack, if anything. But still, she just cannot catch a break because she just can't seem to stay away from somebody else's mess. So that really sucks for her. On the restart, John Hunter Nemechek took the lead from Ross Chastain. Graham Finger had an epic save. And then Blaine Perkins and Tate Fogelman had an accident. Ty Majeski, also towards the end of the race, he ran over the Tooth Cone. No penalty though. It seems like NASCAR missed that, which, got me a bit angry, not gonna lie. So anyways, for the final laps of the race, it was John Hunter Nemechek and then Carson Hocevar who managed to take second place away. And it seemed like Carson Hocevar at first he was going to catch John Hunter Nemechek, but then as the laps kept winding down, it seemed like John Hunter Nemechek he was going to hold on to the lead. He was going to be able to keep his distance, and Carson Hocevar wasn't going to be able to get a good run going on him unless he made a mistake or a caution happened, which is exactly what happened. Ben Rhodes had a flat tire after, contact with Chandler Smith apparently, because I saw the two of them get into it on, have a discussion in post-race. Like, after the race was over, Ben Rhodes went over to Chandler Smith to talk, and it was very hostile, not gonna lie. So, I can only assume that the flat tire, the Ben Rhodes flat tire was caused by, that contact with Chandler Smith. I didn't quite see the replay well because, Fox. But anyways, the race went into overtime. Ross Chastain, there was some radio communications during that caution that Ross Chastain was going to push Carson Hocevar to try and him to get past John Hunter Nemechek. I mean, you know how Ross Chastain is, just an amazing teammate. You would love to have Ross Chastain on your team, like as your teammate if you were a driver, of course. But on the restart, something happened with Ross. It looks like he missed a shift, either that or the transmission broke. The fact of the matter is something happened, and because of that, Carson Hocevar was left to fend for himself against John Hunter Nemechek, and John Hunter Nemechek just very easily held him off, and Hocevar just finished second again. And that's basically all. That's basically all there is to it. Nice Motorsports, man. Their master plan to get a Hocevar win, it fell apart at the seams. Like, that was the perfect plan. Like, if Ross Chastain actually got to Carson Hocevar's back bumper, I could very well see them. I could have very well seen him like push Hocevar to the win, because that's the thing. Ross Chastain, he got a very good short run car. He got one of the best short run cars over there at the end. So if he got back into the bumper of the, if he backed it into the bumper of the 42, I'm pretty sure they would have been able to, this would have been like a win for Carson Hocevar. But who knows, second consecutive runner-up finish for Hocevar. His day will come eventually. In post-race inspection, we got a DQ though. It wasn't John Hunter Nemechek though. It was Matt Crafton, who after finishing 5th got disqualified because his truck was way too low on post-race inspection. Big yikes. Crafton, you know, like Grant Enfinger, Carson Hocevar, he was on that tier of drivers that, you know, they might miss the playoffs, you know, that cut line of like the playoff bubble. And Crafton, he was like, what, 10 points above the cut line. He entered this race like 10 points above the cut line. Now with this penalty and him like being dropped to like last place finish, losing all of those stage points that he got, he's going to, that's going to be a big hit in the points. As a matter of fact, let's check it out right now. 24 points below the cut line. Yeah, that's a big yikes. Especially since this is like a very pivotal stretch for the truck series, since starting this week, we're going to be having a truck race for the next 8 weeks. 8 truck races in 8 weeks. Like, the truck series is not going to have an off week until the end of June. So for these next 2 months, we're going to be having a lot of truck series action. Like, this is the make or break stretch for a lot of these drivers for when it comes to like regular season and getting in good position to make it to the playoffs. And Matt Crafton is already off to a very bad start now that he is below the cut line. He's starting this stretch below the cut line. It's going to be an uphill climb for him. Now, that doesn't mean he can make it. Of course he can. I mean, a 24-point gap with halfway in the regular season, just 8 races left in the regular season, that's very manageable, but he's going to need a lot of good runs for that. Also, shout out to Top Bodine, finishing the top 10. Age 58, still getting top 10s. So, good stuff. And one more thing. To whoever threw that beer can to John Hunter Nemechek during his interview, don't do that. I hope you get banned for life. Why are we still doing this front stretch interviews? Bring back victory lane interviews. Yada yada yada. Okay, there, I'm done. Now for the Xfinity race. There was no qualifying because rain. It's painful, but it is what it is. Because of this, however, Chase Elliot failed to qualify because of this. You know, that's really ironic. Elliot won last week. A race that was postponed because of rain. And now, the next week, he gets a DNQ because of it. It's an Xfinity race, sure. This doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things, but still, you know, really funny how fast a weekend can, you know, just turn around. Like, one weekend you're winning and another race you're failing to qualify for a race because of rain. Stage 1 was pretty straightforward. We had another glee this season, in my opinion. Noah Gragson versus Ty Gibbs, which are two guys with pretty similar racing styles. Of course, Gragson being the more mature of the two, being the more grown, the more experienced. He ended up winning stage 1. Other interesting things that happened during stage 1 was, you know, Jeb Burton trying to be slick after getting a flat tire. He spun out on purpose, basically pulled a Carson Hocevar from last year. Got a 1-lap penalty because of that. And then, during that caution, Sheldon Creed had a mechanical issue early on. As a matter of fact, on the initial start of the race, he missed the shift, apparently. That hurt his transmission. He had to go to the garage, and he entered a race below the cut line, and it just got worse. He entered this race like 20-something points below the cut line. He is now like 60, almost 70 points below the cut line. It just got worse. And Darlington was one of his best tracks too. I had him as a sleeper pick to win. But now it's pretty sure we gotta start talking about Sheldon Creed, because 11 races into the season, we are already 1/3 into the Xfinity season, almost halfway through the regular season. He isn't even close to making the playoffs right now, and his teammate Austin Hill, he already won a race, and he's looked like the better guy at Richard Childress Racing. And I think a lot of us, we pegged Sheldon Creed to be the guy for RCR, like an Austin Hill be the second guy. Sheldon Creed, we also thought that he was going to be like the first of the two to win a race. He's been the biggest disappointment of the season so far, without a doubt. Other things that happened, Justin Allgaier, he had a battery issue. He had to start from the rear. He drove all the way up to 4th in stage 1, another one of the guys to watch, as he won this exact race last year. And a fast pit stop puts him on the lead in stage 2. He won the race off pit road. Also, another thing that was like throughout the race was there was a chance of rain. We were following the radar for a rain cell nearby, or at least Bob Pockrass on Twitter was providing us with some much needed updates. This was not a big deal though, since this was a clean race and they got to halfway no time at all. Little more than 1 hour, as a matter of fact. So pretty quick little race there. Stage 2 was all about Justin Allgaier and the JR Motorsports guys. They surged ahead, all 4 guys in the top 10. Speaking of disappointing drivers this season, another caution in stage 2 was brought out by Myatt Snyder. I think it was Bailey Curry that got in a little bit too hot into the corner. This was turn 3 and he drove through him. But it seems to me like Snyder was running slow when I look at the replay. So again, speaking of disappointing drivers this season, Myatt Snyder, he made the playoffs last year. But even outside, but we all know that was because of that one win he had early on during the season at Homestead. And outside of that one win, Myatt Snyder, he didn't really do anything. So when he moved over to Jordan Anderson Racing, granted, I didn't have him making the playoffs at all, but I didn't have him being this slow in the points. I thought he was going to be like, in the cut line, but just barely miss it out, potentially. Snyder has been really disappointing. He hasn't even gotten a lot of like top 20 finishes. If you look at his finishes, most of those have been like outside the top 20. So really, really tough stuff out there for the 31 team. So on the restart, Justin Allgaier has a slow restart. Noah Gragson and Ty Gibbs get by, and Gragson ends up sweeping the stages as the stage ends under caution. But just like last time, Allgaier has another fast pit stop and he wins the race off pit road. Once again, that pit crew really making up for that slow pit stop that could have potentially cost them the race at Dover. So stage 3 once again was the same old story. Smooth sailing, Allgaier smooth sailing, Gragson in second. Ty Gibbs started slowing down or falling down because of using his tires early on that run. It's typical Darlington, typical Ty Gibbs inexperience as well. That it's just, again, like I said, his driving style. He reminds me a lot of like Gragson in his younger days. He usually like overdrives it. He doesn't leave any equipment for the long run. So that one green flag run during stage 3, that really messed him up, and he didn't come back to the top 5 because had a slow pit stop, some strategy, some guys staying out, and he eventually ended up finishing outside the top 10. Matter of fact, he actually finished 16th, so didn't even crack the top 15. So again, guess that's another lesson learned for him. So another caution came out for Alex Labbe. Allgaier once again wins the race off pit road, and this time it's Noah Gragson who has a slow pit stop. That puts him back in 6th. Apparently, Noah Gragson had Corey LaJoie's pit crew, so that explains a lot. The plan was originally like most of Gragson's pit crew, which also pits Hendrick Motorsports in the Cup Series. I think it's the 9 crew, or most of it, I think. But the pit crew that usually works for Gragson also works for Hendrick Motorsports Cup Series operations. Not this time, because the Hendrick Motorsports crew was supposed to be part of the 88 for Chase Elliott, but because he failed to qualify. At first, the speculation was that the pit crew will be moved back to Gragson's team, but they made the decision. JRM, they made the decision to let the original, like the allotted pit crew stand, because they have already been working all weekend long. It would be kind of a waste. So in the case of Noah Gragson, he got Corey LaJoie's pit crew, the one from Spire Motorsports, number 17. Spire Motorsports, one of the smaller teams in NASCAR, a 25th to 30th place team. So that explains why Gragson had a slow pit stop. But for them to lose just 4 spots, for them to drop only to 6 and still keep the 9 car in the top 10, that's kind of, I guess it's kind of a victory in and of itself. Especially since this pit crew, most of these guys are Cup Series pit crews. I know most of them, it doesn't really matter, because in the Cup Series they do like single lock nut pit stops, and in Xfinity they do still the 5 lock nut pit stops. So I don't know how much experience those guys can get, but still, I guess chemistry. Also, the fact that some of these guys are more specialized pit crews for like the 5 lock nut pits. So again, I'm just rambling at this point. In the restart, Justin Allgaier and Josh Berry restart side by side, and Josh Berry gets too good of a restart, a little too good in fact. He clearly jumped the leader. He clearly accelerated before the leader. NASCAR rules nowadays, they don't care if you beat the car to the start finish line, or if you beat the leader before the restart zone. It doesn't really matter as long as you don't gas it up before the leader. Like, the leader is the control car. He's got to gas it up first. Josh Berry, NASCAR determined that Josh Berry, he gassed it up first before Allgaier, and that was clear as day. He got penalized, and his chances for going back-to-back, for making it back-to-back wins, they just went up in smoke. Or rather, they went up down the drain, because he ended up finishing the race in the lead lap, but still. This was a 5-car battle for the lead, with Gragson re-entering the picture, Allgaier also leading, and Sam Mayer, now that Josh Berry penalized, all 3 JRM cars were still in the top 5. But John Hunter Nemechek and Tyler Reddick were also there. A caution came out for late caution came out for Joe Graf Jr. Your weekly Joe Graf Jr. incident. Granted, that wasn't his fault, but still, he was the one who brought the caution. Most of the leaders pitted for tires, even though this run was a bit shorter than the one that was at the start of the stage. That's just how much tires matter at Darlington. To give you an idea how much, for the Cup Series, for the entire weekend, the teams had 11 sets of tires for the race. And one of those sets were the ones that they used for qualifying. So, 10 sets of sticker tires and 1 set of scuffs, which is the ones that they use for qualifying. So, most of the leaders pitted for tires. The guys that didn't pit, like the top 7 guys, they didn't pit because they didn't have any more tires, or at least they didn't have any sticker tires. So Tyler Reddick, Allmendinger, Daniel Hemrick, Jeremy Clements, and a few others stayed out. Allgaier restarted 8th on fresh tires, so for a fact that it was gonna take a while for him to get back up front. Allmendinger took the lead on the restart as Tyler Reddick hit the wall a few laps later, and because of that, a caution came out, and Allmendinger got screwed basically. Now, I don't think he was holding off Allgaier because this caution came out with like 5-6 laps to go. I don't think he was holding off Allgaier for the lead, but with the distance he got put, because it was a mess, they were battling for second. Allmendinger had put up some solid distance between him and Allgaier, so it was going to be like a matter of 2 to 3 laps before he caught him. He could have at least gotten a top 5 out of it. So on the restart, Allgaier just cleared off Allmendinger, and he ended up holding off Gragson, and he wins. Winless streak of his career is over, and once again, the best car won. As for Allmendinger, he didn't get the top 5 as expected, but he salvaged an 8th place finish. 11 top 10s on the season, putting colleague racing on his back. Landon Castle, compared to his colleague teammates at least, because Landon Castle had a slow start to the season. Just now he has gotten himself above the cut line with a nice little streak of top 10s and top 5s, making the most out of this opportunity. But especially Daniel Hemric, he has been really mediocre, so much so that he is only I don't know how many points he is above the cut line, like 20 something, but I know for a fact that that he has been a 12th place driver on the playoff grid for not like most of the season, but as of late right now. Again, another disappointing driver this season, because when it comes to Daniel Hemric, especially when he's a defending champion, you have to you're usually used to him getting a lot of riffing off top 5s left and right, and if he doesn't win races, of course, but you always see him 100, 200 points above the cut line. One of the better drivers that hasn't won a race. He usually locks himself in on points 2 to 3 races before the playoffs. Not this case. And now I know that colleague racing doesn't have is inferior to Joe Gibbs Racing. I consider colleague racing the 3rd best team in Xfinity behind Joe Gibbs and JR Motorsports, but I didn't. But still, Hemric is a defending series champion, and I had him winning regular season races since he finally got that monkey off his back when he won the championship, as well as the race at Phoenix. So I thought he had gotten that monkey off his back, but again, Hemric has been disappointing this season as well. So anyways, Xfinity race, was pretty fun. Nice little good appetizer for the main event tomorrow. As for the Cup Series race, I just have a simple question. Who in the world scheduled the Formula One Miami Grand Prix and the 400-mile Throwback weekend race at Darlington at the same damn time? Now, I know Formula One races are shorter, time-wise. They're they take an hour and a half at most to complete. And as a matter of fact, the F1 race ended while the NASCAR race was still going on about halfway. So with that being the case, and based on what we already know, why didn't they start this F1 race at 1:30 or 2 o'clock? Because by the time that F1 race finished, the NASCAR race would be at the very least its first few laps. It would have already started. Who thought it was a genius idea? I don't understand that. NASCAR, they're obsessed with their afternoon start time. So, and Formula One, it's when they race in the U.S., when they run the U.S. Grand Prix at COTA, they run it a few hours at noon, 1 p.m. before the Cup race even begins, and by the time the Cup race starts, it's ending. The Formula One race is almost ending. So I really don't understand what the hell was that. But anyways, race starts. Stage 1. it seemed like this race, Kyle Larson set the tone pretty early, and it seemed to me like he was gonna run away with it. Kyle Larson had a nice little streak of 4 straight second place finishes at Darlington, dating back to, of course, his last 4 starts at Darlington have been second place finishes, dating all the way back to the 2018. Actually, nah, not 2018. That race he finished third, actually. 3 straight second place finishes, yeah, dating back to the 2019 Southern 500. Yeah, I got my years mixed up, but 3 straight second place finishes at Darlington. That's actually pretty wild, and if you ask me, that's more impressive than having just 1 career win at Darlington. To me, 3 straight second place finishes at Darlington is even more impressive. I don't care who you are. So I expected Larson to like finally get over the hump. Logano tried his best. There were a couple of restarts where Logano managed to get side by side with Larson for like half a lap, but it was pretty clear that the only way he was going to beat Larson will be on pit road, because Larson had the better long run car. He managed to get up to a 2-second lead on Logano by the time the competition caution happened. So once the competition caution happened, Logano retook the lead, winning the race off pit road. Once again, he's a pole sitter, so he's gonna choose the best pit stall, and he took full advantage of that. So good for him. So Logano gets the lead, and Larson, he is back. Meyer back in a battle for second with Kyle Busch, and Larson gets impatient. He overdrives it and spins. And those tires, like, they go to, if you see at the replay of the spin, his tires, they are spinning to the rear. And keep that in mind, because that's going to come into play later. So from that point on, it's Kyle Busch versus Logano, so just some intense racing. But at the end of the stage, it's pretty clear that Logano had the better long run car, or at the very least, he saved his car more for the long run than Kyle Busch did. Logano, Ross Chastain, and even Christopher Bell eventually they take the top 3 away from Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch ends up settling for 4th, and Logano ends up holding off Ross Chastain for the last few laps, and he gets stage 1. Again, just like it's been a theme throughout the entire weekend, the leader can't pull away that much in the longer runs under green, because they have to think about tire management. Either that, or they've already burned the tires off their cars. So on stage 2, Larson blows the motor. And think back to what I said about the rear tires, about him spinning and the tires going to the spinning backwards. That was Larson kind of, downshifting, shifting into neutral. That caused a lot of wear to the engine, and it eventually expired, before it eventually expired while he was running in the top 10, like not even, just a little over 100 laps into the race, his engine expires. And that's really a shame, because he got a top 5 car, and I even picked him to win, so, I was a little bit upset about that. About my winner's pick being finishing last place. Also, I think we can officially call Larson's season a championship hangover, because I know in the first 12 races last year he only won a race, but he also was more consistent compared to this year. Like he's had a lot of mistakes, few incidents with other drivers, including his own teammate. And also, he's just barely inside the top 10 in points compared to last season, where 12 races into the season, he was like, I don't know if it was second in points, but he was creeping up there. He was like solidly in the top 5, I know for a fact. So anyways, green flag pit stops eventually came around, was a long green flag run. Martin Truex Jr. and Tyler Reddick, they pitted early. And because of that, they managed to take advantage of the new rubber, while the other guys were trying to stretch it out for no reason. And they ended up cycling out 1-2. Now, I said the tires matter, But also track positions matter. Track position also matters because it's hard to pass at Darlington. Darlington is a track just like Dover in that track position matters because it's hard to pass, but also the tire management, it also matters. Especially more at Darlington, since you run close to the wall and you can end up getting a Darlington stripe and hitting the wall. Especially with these Gen 7 cars, that they are so fragile that a little tap in the wall can bend the rear toe link, like we have seen all season long. But yeah, Darlington, you catch up a guy, passing him is a whole other story. You gotta be patient and don't pull a Kyle Larson where you just overdrive the car. You're not gonna make the corner, you end up losing the car, either crashing or spinning it out. So at the end of the stage, Truex and Chastain, it was Truex versus Chastain once again. Those two have history, not only from Dover last week, but also from a prior incident where Chastain, he kind of squeezed Truex into the wall, or he tried to, tried a daring pass on him early on. I don't know if it was stage 1 or early in stage 2, but yeah, I caught that. That caught my eye for a moment. Chastain eventually gets the lead, another one of the drivers to watch. And then a caution. Keselowski blew a tire, or something happened, but he hit the wall hard. And Kyle Busch, he ever so delicately just taps him and he gets collected in it. And because the Gen 7 cars are so fragile, that little tap, it ended up damaging his steering, the steering of his car. Like, the wheel was bent to the left and he couldn't turn it. Like, the steering broke in the car, and he had to take it to the garage. But the thing is, however, Kyle Busch, he parked it in front of the garage, and then he just leaves. And of course, there's outrage from the fans, making it, and also the broadcast did its part too, especially Clint Boyer, making it seem like a big deal. Boyer said, "Oh, that's not okay. That's just Kyle Busch being frustrated." I mean, yeah, frustration can play a part in that again. I didn't like it either. As a fan, I didn't like it either, because that just made this caution period unnecessarily. It just lengthened it. It just stretched it out. And I don't like, as a fan, I don't like long cautions. But Kyle Busch, he's the one driving. He knows better. If he could have turned the car, he would have done it already, because he said in his interview that his steering was, he couldn't turn the car to the left because the steering broke in the car because of the accident. So and then again, like I said, he knows better than us. He's the one driving the car, and I firmly believe that if Kyle Busch could have turned the car, he would have done it already. Now, I see a lot of Kyle Busch, haters saying that, but he managed to turn the car left through turns 3 and 4 and into pit road. Why couldn't he turn it to the garage? Dude, turning left into pit road is not the same as turning a hard left into the garage at a low speed. You know how hard you gotta crank that wheel. You know how much you gotta crank that wheel to get it turned. If the car wasn't turning, yeah, I get that Kyle Busch was frustrated, and now a lot of fans are like psychoanalyzing Kyle Busch's behavior, and they come to the conclusion that he's a whiny toddler and a crybaby because of what he did. Kyle Busch can do anything. And if he is ever so slightly angry with an angry expression, people are just gonna say that he's a crybaby, like the Kyle Busch haters. I swear, Kyle Busch haters, they cry more than the driver they swear to hate. It's just funny, but it's also sad. Like, how do you waste that much energy on hating on the guy, and also being objectively wrong? Because again, like I said, if Kyle Busch could have turned the car, he would have already made it to the garage, and he would have parked it in the garage. He wouldn't have left it stall there. But then again, Kyle Busch haters, they're not gonna listen to common sense. They're only gonna listen to the things that that agrees with their hate agenda. I'm through with it. So anyways, on the restart, it was a few laps to go, little shootout. Chastain hangs on for the stage 2 win, and Denny Hamlin ends up winning the race of pit road. Finally, something this season is going right for Denny Hamlin. And on the restart, unfortunately, Ross Chastain gets loose, spins, and he crashes. Yikes. That was really painful to see because, I like Chastain, I like Trackhouse Racing and what they got going there. So, the fact that their best shot at winning the race just went away just like that. That was really painful. Also, that beautiful throwback, watching it, get towed away, painfully. So, the battle for the lead, once again, Joey Logano re-entered the picture to battle Hamlin for the lead. But Hamlin managed to hold him off, and William Byron also entered the picture in the top 3. With green flag pit stops going on, once again, Joey Logano and William Byron, they decide to pit earlier, just like Martin Truex and Tyler Reddick did before in stage 2. And they managed to cycle out before Hamlin, Truex, and Christopher Bell, because the 3 Joe Gibbs Racing cars that were also battling right there, they were in the top 5. Tyler Reddick was also in it, but it was in a different strategy, and he was leading this race, so he cycled out front because he was off sequence. He was planning to make one final pit stop a few laps after the leaders put some laps on their tires. He was going to pit, and he was going to use a new rubber to possibly make a charge to the front. Now, I don't know, because it's hard to pass at Darlington, so I don't think that plan would have worked for Tyler Reddick. But we didn't need to worry about the ifs or what ifs about it, because a caution came out, which, in my opinion, I think that caution really saved Tyler Reddick, because I don't think that strategy of his was going to work. He could shoot for a top 10, sure, but possibly a top 5, but I don't think that was a race-winning strategy there. And Reddick has a fast car, and Darlington is one of his better tracks, but I just didn't think that was going to work. So the caution came out. Bowman had a flat tire, and he went up in flames. So, dropping like flies, these drivers. And Denny Hamlin, in typical Denny Hamlin fashion, always something has to go wrong with him because, of course, nothing can go right for him in 2022. Has a slow pit stop, and Joey Logano wins the race of pit road. And on the restart, the big one happens. And, Truex gets loose. He was racing 3 wide with Harvick and Stenhouse. Truex got loose, and he collects Kurt Busch, Bubba Wallace, 23-11 once again for the second time in the last 3 weeks. Both their cars are junked. Cole Custer also involved. Eric Jones, Denny Hamlin, because once again, that slow pit stop for Hamlin. Now, that slow pit stop for Hamlin really works, because if he restarted up front, he would have avoided a crash, because this wreck happened in the mid-pack. Briscoe was also involved, and a few other guys with minor damage that were able to keep on going, with like Chase Elliott or Ryan Blaney. So slowly but surely, this became a race of attrition, because before this you had Kyle Larson, then you had Kyle Busch, Brad Keselowski, Corey LaJoie also. I forgot to mention him back in stage 2. He hit the wall hard. I didn't mention him because he didn't bring out a caution. I'm surprised LaJoie's accident didn't bring out the caution, because he hit the wall rather hard, but then again, he brought it back to pit road safely, so I guess that wasn't a caution. But slowly but surely, this became a race of attrition. There were 13 cars who didn't finish this race. Only 23 cars finished running this race, and only the top 20 finished on the lead lap, because Denny Hamlin, he finished his race a lap down in 21st. He couldn't even salvage the top 20 out of that. Yikes. And then Landon Castle and JJ Yeley, they were also multiple laps down, but they also finished the race running. The top 20 finished on the lead lap. We'll get to that later. The final restart is Joey Logano versus William Byron. Byron eventually takes the lead, and he is sailing. With 10 laps to go, Byron has a 1.2 second lead on Logano. But in the final 10 laps, like the handling of the car, something happened. Handling of the car went away. And Logano catches up to him. 2 laps to go. And with 2 laps to go, Logano does a bump and run on William Byron. He kind of bumps him. Now, again, I feel like Byron, he was a little bit, like I said, the handling of the car had gone away. So I feel like Byron was was really slow coming into the corner. Maybe Logano didn't expect that. But looking at how, because Logano ended up winning the race, by the way, Logano, looking at his interview and what he said, retaliation for a prior incident, maybe Logano was planning on bumping Byron, because he was the faster guy and it's hard to pass at Darlington. So he was planning on passing Byron, but by the looks of it, and by the way that I'm looking at the way that Byron, he really slowed down. He wasn't planning on making that hard of a bump. He was kind of like a, hey, and here bump, and stuff like that. But I'm gonna make a video on this because again, this is like a separate topic. Every time something happens, an on-track incident happens, and there's like some controversy going on and some discourse on social media, I am going to make a video on that. But to put it simply, even as the Joey Logano fan that I am, I feel like he went a little bit too far. I like Joey Logano a lot, but and I also believe that Robin is racing, but even as a Joey Logano fan, I feel like he went a little bit too far there. So, anyways, since this was a race of attrition, the finishing results looked a little bit funked up. Justin Haley ended up finishing 3rd from all of this. Justin Haley, the master of attrition, his first ever top 5 with Kaulig Racing in this Cup Series season, by the way. Michael McDowell finished 7th. Stenhouse finished 8th, back-to-back top 10s. Finally showing some signs of life. Daniel Suarez in 10th. Trackhouse managed to salvage a top 10 despite Ross Chastain wrecking out. Ty Dillon finished 12th. Harrison Burton 14th. Todd Gilliland 15th. And Cody Ware finished on the lead lap on a Rick Ware Racing car. He finished 19th. So, shout out to him. Now, the main thing I want to talk about, and this is something that has been weighing on my mind because looking at, the throwbacks, and has Throwback Weekend lost its luster? Because at least to me, it felt like a good chunk of the field, they didn't bother with the throwback schemes. Like, you look at Richard Childress Racing, for example, the most notable example of, they had a lot of opportunities to do a throwback. I'm pretty sure they got a lot of iconic schemes, paint schemes that they want to replicate. They didn't do that. They just went out with standard livery. Was really disappointing for me. Chase Elliott also, he had a pretty good looking throwback, but because he wrecked the car in qualifying. He wrecked the car, no, not in qualifying, but in practice. He wrecked the car in practice, his primary, and he had to go to a backup. The team decided, for cost cutting and also but most importantly to, get the car ready on time. They decided to do what they did with William Byron last week at Dover. Half wrap the car, just wrap the sides and then leave everything like the roof and the hood and the back of the car, just keep it white. And at least for William Byron, in the case of William Byron, it was okay because the paint scheme, it looked pretty good. The resulting paint scheme looked really good. Now for Chase Elliott, I don't know, his Napa car has white on the livery, and as a normal paint scheme, I didn't hate it, but as a throwback paint scheme, how are you gonna just do that? I don't know if this was the right thing to do for a throwback paint scheme. like I know Hendrick Motorsports, they wanted to get the car ready on time, but come on, it's Throwback weekend. Put some effort, put some more effort on your livery. Make it special. Just because I get it, you wrecked your primary, and it will be kind of a chore to rewrap the car, but it's Throwback week. But it's Throwback weekend. You kind of have to do it because you're honoring NASCAR history. It's history on wheels, basically. As a matter of fact, speaking of Throwback weekend, I don't even know what the theme was this year, or if NASCAR even had a theme this year, because usually when it comes to like throwback schemes, NASCAR does like, this year, the throwback theme is going to be the 60s, then it's going to be the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and stuff like that. A decades theme. Although I feel that they could branch out and do like championship schemes and also Daytona 500 winners. This year, I didn't know what the theme was. It looks like NASCAR decided to just leave it up to the teams. And the teams just, at least to me, it felt like the teams were just like half-assing Throwback weekend. The broadcast booth was pretty solid though. Richard Petty, Bobby Labonte, and Bill Elliot, they were very insightful, and they managed to keep up with the modern things of NASCAR. Like they share a few things from their perspective and experience as drivers, but it looked like from a modern era point of view, from a modern day like Gen 7 point of view, you kind of understood and they kind of knew what they were talking about, which was really surprising because I thought that their views and their experiences were gonna be outdated, and that was gonna make up for like a little bit of an awkward conversations in the booth, but they really knew what they were talking about. So good for them, which was really great because once again, Fox, the network, their coverage, they just flop with their coverage. Fortunately, the on-track product was great. This was a pretty good Darlington race, pretty action-packed, plenty of lead changes. Again, you can thank these Gen 7 cars for that. These Gen 7 cars, they really raced very well at Darlington, I gotta say. And I really can't wait for the Southern 500 now. Because these Gen 7 cars at Darlington were really good. As for the letter review for this race, again, the broadcast, they kind of miffed the, it kind of takes a hit on the rating, because there was a point in the race where they showed like Chase Elliott spinning, and then Clint Boyer and Mike Joey were saying this actually happened 30 minutes ago during green flag pit stops, and this was like on the final green flag run before the finish line, before the race ended, like with 20 to go. You're showing us an incident, something that happened with Chase Elliott for like 20. Something that happened with Chase Elliott 30 minutes like after Fatigue happened. Come on, Fox. You're better than this, but at this point I've just realized that Fox is like an unserious network and they're just not interested in NASCAR anymore. At this point it just looks like NBC is better to me. There, I said it. I don't know how Fox can be redeemed from this. Their coverage has been down horrendous this season when I'm just sitting down and analyzing it, because I haven't really like analyzed it. Most of that has to do with the fact that I don't watch races on Fox or FS1. I just watch them, on my local cable TV or live stream. But when I sit down and analyze this, how Fox, they conduct their coverage on the main network, it's really disappointing, honestly. That being said, I'm gonna give this letter review a B+. Despite the coverage, the on-track product, they really carried this race, especially like I said in the Cup Series. As for the driver of the day, this race was really a mixed bag in terms of who was the driver of the day, because there wasn't really. I usually do like, a surprise driver of the race, or a driver that really dominated. But in this case, for this specific race at Darlington, I don't feel like there was like a particular best driver in this race. There were like a few best drivers for parts of the race, like there was Kyle Larson, but he got taken out early. He took himself out early, technically. Then Denny Hamlin, but then once again, bad luck. Just a slow pit stop and getting caught up in the big one that screwed him over. Justin Haley could also be a good candidate for driver of the day, but he had because he got a late surge, but he wasn't a top 10 guy until attrition and stuff like that. So I'm gonna go with Joe Logano here. Logano is my driver of the day because looking at it, if you're looking at the laps led, Logano actually led like 100 something laps. He led almost. I don't know if he led close to half the laps, but I know for a fact he was the only driver that led 100 laps in this race. And despite the controversial move, he was gaining on Byron. And overall, I don't think he was the best car, undisputedly, because there were several best guys. But Logano was definitely a top 5 car all day long, and he was the one who put like the most complete race together. So. I guess Joe Logano is the driver of the day to me. Unpopular opinion. It's an unpopular choice, sure, but again, I'm gonna make a video on the Joe Logano William Byron thing later on this week because I have some very interesting things to say about that. So yeah, stay tuned for that and see ya.